My sister, Chloe, has been dead for 6 months. For the last 34 nights, she's called me. I know how that sounds. I told myself it was impossible, a glitch, a cruel prank, anything but the truth, because the truth was just too horrifying to think about. It started about a month ago, a week after we buried her. Her name lit up my phone at exactly 3:03 a.m. I answered. She didn't speak. All I heard was static and breathing. A faint, shallow breath, like someone was holding the phone inches from their mouth, just listening. The next morning, the call was gone from my log, like it never happened. I tried to forget it. A phantom ring, a hallucination born from sleepless nights and grief so heavy it felt like a weight on my chest. But then it happened again. And again. Always at 3:03 a.m. Always static and that soft, patient breathing. I started to believe it was her. Chloe. Reaching out to tell me she was okay, or that she missed me, or just to say goodbye. I clung to that hope like a drowning woman clings to a piece of driftwood. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Last night, I found her diary hidden under a floorboard in her old room. And the last page held one final, terrifying message. A message that wasn't for her, but for me. And it changes everything. It's hard to explain the silence after a death. It's not just that there's no sound. It's that there's no presence. Chloe was loud. Not in a bad way, just in a vibrant, alive way. Her laugh used to bounce off the walls. Her music was always a little too bass-heavy. Her footsteps on the stairs were a familiar rhythm in my day. When she died, all of it just stopped. The house fell into this deep, profound quiet that felt completely wrong. That silence was the first thing that started to drive me crazy. The official report said her death was an accident. Single-car collision, wet road, late at night. No one else involved. They figured she lost control. It was clean, simple, and completely unbelievable to anyone who knew her. Chloe was the most careful driver I knew. She was the one who'd bug me about checking my tire pressure and keeping both hands on the wheel. She drove that old car like it was made of glass. But the police were satisfied, the case was closed, and we were just left with a Chloe-shaped hole in our lives. Grief is a weird, disorienting fog. You lose track of time. You forget to eat. You find yourself standing in the middle of a room with no clue how you got there. Sleep is no escape, just a different kind of haunting. I'd have these vivid dreams that she was still alive, that we were kids again building blanket forts in the living room. Then I'd wake up, and the silence would just crash down on me all over again. That's when the first call came, about a month after the funeral. I'd been jolted awake for no reason, my heart pounding with this sudden, awful dread. My room was pitch black. I fumbled for my phone, and when the screen flared to life, my breath caught in my throat. Chloe. Her name was right there, with that goofy picture of her at the beach, squinting into the sun with zinc on her nose. It was impossible. Her phone was in a police evidence bag somewhere. My mind raced, trying to find any logical reason. A contact glitch. A hacker. A sick prank. My thumb hovered over the green accept button. The logical part of my brain was screaming not to. But a bigger, more desperate part, the part that missed my sister, couldn't resist. What if? I swiped to answer, my hand shaking. Chloe? I whispered. No answer. Just a wall of crackling static, so loud it hurt my ear. I pulled the phone away, then pressed it back, straining to listen. Underneath the static, I heard it. A faint rhythm. Inhale. Exhale. A slow, steady breath. Not a gasp, not a struggle. It was calm. Patient. Chloe, is that you? I said, louder this time. Please say something. Just static and breathing. A cold dread, totally different from grief, started to creep up my spine. This didn't feel like her. This felt watchful. I stayed on the line for maybe 2 minutes, my own breathing becoming ragged, just repeating her name, begging for a sign. Nothing. Finally, with a shaking finger, I ended the call. The silence that rushed back and felt 1,000 times heavier than before. I tried to call the number back, straight to a disconnected service message. I checked my call log. Inbound, outbound, missed. Nothing. The record of Chloe's call was just gone. I told myself it was a dream. A hallucination brought on by stress and grief. It had to be. But the next night, it happened again. 3:03 a.m. on the dot. I was awake, watching the numbers on my clock flip over, my body tense. The screen lit up. Chloe. I answered immediately. Hello? Same static. Same slow, steady breathing. This time, I didn't speak. I just listened. The breathing felt closer somehow. More distinct. I could almost picture someone on the other end, just breathing into the receiver, listening to me listen. The feeling of being watched was so intense, it was almost physical. After a minute, the line went dead. I checked my log. Nothing. This became my new, horrifying routine. Every night, 3:03 a.m., the call would come. My fear slowly warped into a kind of ritual. I stopped questioning it. I started expecting it. I'd lie awake, wait for the call, and just listen. I told myself it was Chloe's way of staying with me. That the breathing wasn't threatening, it was just her spirit. Her energy. A secret message just for us. It was a lie, of course. A comforting lie I told myself so I wouldn't have to face the alternative. A lie that held me together for 33 nights. Until last night. It's been 6 months. 6 months of the world moving on, while I felt trapped in that first, awful week. My mom suggested I start going through Chloe's things. It might bring you some closure, Hannah, she said, her voice gentle. I'd been avoiding it. Sorting through her life felt like a betrayal, like I was erasing her. But I couldn't leave her room as a shrine forever. So last night, I finally opened her door. The air was still and thick with her scent, lavender and old books. It was exactly as she'd left it. Her bed unmade, a half-empty mug of tea on her nightstand. A perfect snapshot of a life cut short. I started with her closet, folding clothes into piles for donation. Every item was a punch to the gut. The worn-out band t-shirt from when she was 16. The dress she wore to my graduation. I just sat on the floor for a while, holding her scarf, and cried. After a few hours, all that was left was the space under her bed. I knelt down, the floorboards groaning. Dust bunnies, a lost sock, a couple of old shoeboxes. I pulled them out. One was full of concert tickets and photo booth strips of us making stupid faces. The other had letters from her year abroad. My heart ached. As I reached under the bed again, my hand brushed against something loose. One of the floorboards. I pressed on it, and it gave with a faint squeak. Curiosity cut through the grief for a second. Chloe was always hiding things. I ran my fingers along the edge and found a tiny notch. Using my fingernail, I pried the board up. It lifted easily. And there, in the dark space beneath, wrapped in a piece of old velvet, was a book. A classic black and white composition notebook. The corners were soft and frayed. There was no name, just a single, small star drawn in silver ink in the bottom corner. Our signal. For secret notes, when we were kids. My breath hitched. It was her diary. I never knew she kept one. We told each other everything. Or, I thought we did. My hands were shaking as I unwrapped it. The book felt heavy, full of secrets. A part of me didn't want to open it, to invade her privacy. But the calls, a powerful feeling told me the answer was inside this book. I sat there on her dusty floor and took a deep breath. Then, I opened her diary. The first entry was dated 2 years ago. The handwriting was pure Chloe, big, loopy, and full of life. It started just like I'd have expected. September 12th. New diary. Hannah would laugh at me. Who are you, a Victorian damsel? But sometimes there are things you can't say out loud. Not because they're bad, but because words feel too small. I feel like I'm on the edge of something. College is great, but it's all mapped out. I want an adventure. Something just for me. I smiled through my tears. That was so her. Always looking for a little magic. I spent the next hour reading, losing myself in her world. The pages were full of her life, complaining about professors, doodling flowers in the margins, gushing about art history. She wrote about boys, about friends, about our family. And she wrote about me. October 3rd. Talked to Hannah for 2 hours last night. She's stressing about midterms. I tried to tell her she's the smartest person I know, but she never believes it. Funny, she's the younger sister, but I feel like I've looked up to her my whole life. She's so steady. Sent her a care package today with all her favorite ridiculous snacks. Hope it helps. Reading that was like a physical blow. I remembered that care package. Salt and vinegar chips, sour gummy worms, and a stupid singing fish toy. It made me laugh so hard I cried. Seeing it here, written down as this pure act of love, just broke my heart all over again. Page after page, it was my sister's voice, clear and bright and alive. It was both beautiful and agonizing. I felt closer to her than I had in months, but it also sharpened the edges of my grief, reminding me exactly what I'd lost. There was no hint of darkness, no shadow of what was to come. It was just Chloe. Happy. I was so caught up in the warmth of her early entries that I almost didn't notice when the tone first started to shift. It was just a single sentence, but it was there. A tiny crack in the foundation. The change was gradual. An entry from about a year ago, buried between paragraphs about a movie she'd seen and plans for the weekend. March 18th. Weird thing, though. My phone's been acting up. Sometimes, late at night, I'll think I hear it ring just once. When I check, there's nothing there. Must be dreaming. I froze. Late at night? A phantom ring. A cold knot formed in my stomach. A coincidence. I kept reading. For a few more months, the entries were mostly normal. But the strange notes started to pile up. Always dismissed as her imagination or a tech issue. April 29th. I'm so tired. I keep waking up in the middle of the night, always around 3 a.m. It's probably just stress. Sometimes when I wake up, I have this feeling, like someone was just in my room. It's ridiculous, I know. My door's locked. I'm just being paranoid. 3 a.m. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a pattern. I started reading faster, my eyes jumping down the pages. The cheerful, loopy handwriting was getting tighter. The doodles were gone. June 11th. It happened again. The phone. But I was awake this time. It rang once. I grabbed it, but the screen was dark. No missed call. But I heard it. I'm not crazy. And the feeling of being watched is getting worse. I'll just be sitting at my desk and the hairs on my neck will stand up. I always turn around. No one's ever there. It's really starting to get to me. I felt this wave of useless fear for her, wanting to scream back in time and tell her she wasn't crazy to get out. The diary wasn't a collection of memories anymore. It was a log of her haunting. August 22nd. The calls are different now. Last night, it rang for real. At 3:03 a.m. Caller ID was blank. I shouldn't have, but I answered. I said hello. There was just static. And breathing. Someone breathing on the other end. I hung up so fast. Who calls at that time and just breathes? It felt intentional. My own heart was pounding, a sick echo of her terror. It was the same. The exact same time, the same static, the same breathing. This didn't start after she died. It started long before. Is this what led to the accident? Was she being stalked? Her entries grew more frantic. She wrote about hearing whispers in the static, about shadows moving in the corners of her eyes. She stopped going out, making excuses to stay home, a home that was clearly no longer safe. October 9th. It knows my name. Last night in the static, I heard it. A voice. Distorted, like it was coming through water. But it said my name. Chloe. Just once. I dropped the phone and screamed. I'm so scared. Who would believe me? They'd think I'm losing my mind. Maybe I am. But it felt so real. The voice, it was ancient. And cold. I was reading through tears. My poor sister. She went through this alone, terrified, while I was completely oblivious. The guilt was crushing. Why didn't she tell me? I would have believed her. I would have helped. The last few pages were almost unreadable. The handwriting was a chaotic scroll. 3 days until I drive home. I have to get out of here. I need to see Hannah. Maybe if I'm home, it will stop. 2 days. The calls are longer. The breathing is louder. It doesn't even feel like it's coming from the phone anymore. It feels like it's in the room with me. I'm sleeping with the lights on. It doesn't help. Tomorrow. Bags are packed. Leaving right after class. Just going to drive until I'm home. The phone is on silent, but it doesn't matter. I can still feel it when it's time. 3:03, an alarm clock in my head. I'm so tired. That was her last real entry. The day before she died. She wasn't just tired. She was terrified and sleep-deprived. Is that why she crashed? Was she running from this? My hands trembled as I turned to the very last page. There were only 2 sentences dug deep into the paper. The final page felt different. The ink was slightly blurred, like from a tear or a wet hand. I read the frantic, spidery script, and my world tilted. It wasn't a goodbye. It was an instruction. A plea. It's not me calling. It's what took me. I read it again. And again. The words swam in front of my eyes. What took her? Not how she died, but what took her. An entity. She hadn't just crashed. She'd been taken. The hope I'd foolishly held on to, that Chloe was reaching out, shattered. For 34 nights, I hadn't been talking to my sister. I had been answering the phone to her killer. The breathing wasn't a comfort. It was a taunt. My blood turned to ice. I felt sick. All those nights, I had willingly picked up. I had listened. I had whispered her name into the static. I had invited this thing into my room. Then my eyes saw the second sentence. Don't let it know you can hear it. A gasp escaped my lips. Don't let it know you can hear it. It wasn't a warning against answering. It was a warning against engaging. It was a rule. A rule I had broken 34 times. Every time I whispered, Chloe? Every time my own breath hitched, every time I just stayed on the line. I was letting it know. I was acknowledging it. What had Chloe figured out in her last hours? Did she try to ignore it, and it escalated? Did it take her because she broke the rule? Or was this rule for the next person? For me? The diary slipped from my numb fingers. The room, which had felt so full of Chloe, now felt vast and cold. I looked around wildly at the shadows. The feeling of being watched came crashing back, 10 times stronger. It was never just grief. It was real. And then, as if on cue, my phone, lying on Chloe's bed, lit up. The screen cast a pale, sickly glow. I didn't need to see the name. I knew. My eyes shot to the clock on her nightstand. The red numbers blazed in the dark. 3:03 a.m. I was paralyzed with a terror so deep it felt like my bones had turned to lead. I couldn't move. I could only stare as the phone started to ring, my cheerful ringtone sounding like a scream. I thought of Chloe's words. Don't let it know you can hear it. The ringing continued, sharp and insistent in the suffocating quiet. I squeezed my eyes shut. Don't react. Don't move. It's not real. But it was. Because over the relentless ringing, a new sound began. It wasn't coming from the phone. It was coming from right beside me. From the empty air next to where I sat. A soft, patient, rhythmic breath. Inhale. Exhale. It was in the room with me. The phone call was never a long-distance connection. It was a doorbell. An announcement that it was here. And for 34 nights, I had let it know I was listening. And now it knew. I'm still on the floor of my sister's room. The diary is open at my feet. The phone stopped ringing a few minutes ago, but the silence now is worse. It's a heavy, listening silence. The breathing has stopped, but I can feel it. A cold spot in the air. A pressure. Chloe's last message wasn't a warning. It was a terrible inheritance. She was trying to pass on the rules to a game she'd lost. And her warning came too late. I've already broken the most important rule. It knows I can hear it. It knows I'm afraid. I'm staring at my phone. It's dark now, but I know, with a certainty that chills my soul, that tomorrow night at 3:03 a.m., it will ring again. And I have no idea what to do. The diary says don't let it know I can hear it. But what happens now that it knows? Do I answer? Do I ignore it? Or is it already too late? Is the call just a formality now? A cruel reminder that it took my sister, and now it's my turn. I'm staring at the phone, and I feel like it's staring back. What would you do? What choice would you make?